Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
I'm Brian.
And we are on part 5 of our discussion on The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So, I think we're kind of introducing a new format with this, right? So
It's kind of evolving.
It is.
It is. We're
We're
realizing what works well for conversations and what doesn't.
Absolutely. So we've had some of these that have gone 30 minutes. We've had some that have gone almost an hour. We're going to try and shove it back a little bit. We want to try to get into 15 to 20 minute snippets, things that are going to be easier for you to consume and digest. And then what that means is there's just going to be more, because we're only going to cover half of what we normally would cover.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of narrow the scope to just focus on smaller pieces at a time.
We're going to eliminate scope creep.
You had to bring Project World into it, didn't
Wow.
Sorry for those of you that work in corporate America.
Makes my head hurt.
Oh, can we get to the book? Because I'm really
Yes.
excited to talk about
Okay.
this.
Let's talk about some good stuff.
We had a cliffhanger last time, and I
We
was
did have a
really
big
frustrated because
Yeah.
we had to stop, and we couldn't even get into it. But we finally figured out the result of the...
Yeah.
So what we
and
stopped
before
with-
we get too far into this, right, I think we're looking at chapters 55 through 61
Yep.
tonight.
Yes.
So where we ended
Point.
last time was right after Kvothe did his performance at the Eolian to play for his pipes, and he played this very complex song, and he was hoping someone from the audience would jump in, and they did. And all of a sudden he stops, ends the song, bursts into tears, or his string broke, but he finished the song with one less string.
Right.
Then he kind of wept for Sir Savian and Aloine, and that's where it ended.
Yeah, and he still doesn't know who his
Nope.
Aloine is.
No,
So,
and he doesn't even know if the audience liked it yet.
Right.
From where we
yeah,
stopped.
because that was like a dead stop. He sobbed.
Yep.
He noticed other people were crying, and then they just got silent.
Yep.
So, before we get into the meat of what happens next, I just have to say, and maybe this is just me, so for the most part, I've had nothing but good things to say about this book.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
And this is minor.
I know
This
where-
is minor.
Maybe I don't.
But for the life of me, they talk about how these stories and these songs move people to tears, whether they're performing in the Aeolian, whether they're in a pub or a tavern or a campfire. Maybe I just haven't been exposed to something that powerful, but I find that difficult to believe.
Well, here's my take on that. So I completely am with you. The only way I could see that not being the case, or why they would be moved to tears, think about the culture that we have today.
Drugs.
We have drugs. This is not the podcast you were expecting, was it? So we have Hulu, we have Netflix, we have Amazon, we have all of this content shoved down our throats. But one thing you'll notice in this world is there is no TV. There is no consistent good storytelling. So when they hear
That's a
a
good point.
good story, it is so moving that they're able to emote through that crying. But
Can I take that a step further?
Sure.
Because you kind of got me down this path, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm understanding. So let's think back to Avengers Endgame, which we discussed in a previous episode that if you haven't seen, you should check out. Cheap plug, sorry.
That's right.
But at the end, where I think we're past the point where we have to worry about spoilers.
I would hope so.
At the end, where Tony snaps his fingers to defeat Thanos and he dies, and then at the very end you have him, the holographic recording of him talking to everybody, and the last thing he says before it fades away is he looks at his kid and says, "I love you 3000." I mean, so that was like a tearjerker moment for me. But you're right. They don't have these multiple forms of entertainment. The only thing for telling stories is somebody actually telling the stories. And if that's the only medium you've ever been exposed to, the only thing you have people that work their entire lives to perfect this skill.
Yeah.
So I have come around. I'm no
Wow.
longer
Good job,
on the grumpy point, or the grumpy side of that point. So thank you.
But I think you do have a fair point later, and we'll talk about that when we get there. One downfall or one short-sightedness of the author, but we'll get there when we get there. But
Chips
first,
like what?
Yeah, I don't know.
it's a surprise sandwich.
All right.
All
I don't know
right.
if I like my positioning here.
So we're gonna call this first portion of the discussion "Pipes, Patrons, and Passion."
So, needless to say, he finishes the performance, doesn't really know how the audience perceived it, and, he was putting away his lute to kind of hide his emotions, and was it the bar owner, I believe? It wasn't Stanchion.
Stanchion's one of the owners.
But
He's the one that is going around and talking
Yeah.
to people.
so the one who is up on stage,
Stanchion comes
well,
on
it was
stage with
Stanchion,
him.
you're right,
Yeah.
comes up and, Kvothe looks up and was like, oh shoot, this is what everyone else had happen. This guy showed up and he looked exactly the same.
Yep.
I didn't get it. Shoot. So he goes up and he's like, just trying to act as proper as he can, uses all of his training.
Yep.
He shakes the hand and he realizes there's kind of a pain.
Or something's pressed
There's
into
pain.
his palm.
It was, yeah. And he just realized that, there's something there. And he looks down and has the set of pipes.
The talent pipes
Yeah.
that he was playing for.
Yeah.
I was kind of jacked after I read that.
Yeah.
And I think
Anyway.
and I think we alluded to this maybe a little bit before we ended the last episode, but he noticed that the string didn't break because of wear. It was almost
It
like
was a very
cut.
clean break, like it
Yeah.
was a snap. That
And
did something.
Will
something
and
unusual about it.
Sim make the comment that Ambrose
was carried out.
was basically carried
And he
out,
was kind of all like sweaty. I
And-
mean, they thought he looked like he just drank too much. But
and he was upset. But that is like a dead ringer for Binder's Chills.
yeah, because of what we saw
Yeah.
in a previous chapter when they had the duel.
Which
We had
is
to learn about
another-
Binder's Chills.
Which is another example of Patrick Rothfuss doing something very interesting and then calling back on that
Yep.
at a later time. I don't think anything he's written here is extraneous or by chance.
Right.
No.
So yeah. So go ahead.
At this point, he's being congratulated by people. He actually realized that maybe he wasn't necessarily interested in just the talent pipes, which we discussed what the talent pipes do.
Yeah, I think we did the last time that when he was playing for him that they basically allow him to go to any inn, any
Right.
where
Allows him to make a
in
living.
nearby, and allows him to make
Yeah,
a living as a musician.
But he also is hoping that he can attract the notice of some wealthy patrons.
Yep.
Someone who appreciates his craft and will pay him handsomely to show up at their residence and
Right.
serenade guests. That
So
sort
they'll
of thing.
help him, help him
Basically
fund
like
his
a musical
continuous
sugar
learning. And,
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he does meet someone named Count Thrape, who actually performed earlier in the evening. And Thrape stops by and congratulates him and gives him a purse, I think, of like 7 or 8 talents, and just says,
It's like
"Here."
11.
Or maybe it was
a
a
lot.
significant. It's probably more than he ever had,
Right, yeah.
since Tarbine anyway.
Yeah.
But he basically just gives them to him and says, "Here, well done."
And
Yeah.
it should be noted that that was enough to pay off, in theory, both the principal and interest for his outstanding loan.
Right. But yeah.
But first things first,
Yeah.
he has to go find his Aloine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he needs to go find who this beautiful voice was that joined him in the song.
Spoilers, it was not Brian.
No,
It wasn't.
my voice
Oh.
isn't that good.
Okay.
Plus, I don't sing soprano.
Oh, okay.
Neither do
Damn.
Will or Sim, apparently.
Right?
Yeah, apparently
They're
not.
not castrato, is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes searching all around, and he's being, mobbed by these people one at a time.
Yep.
And he's trying to make his way through.
People are buying him drinks and giving him other coin and accolades and just all
Right.
these rewards for his performance.
And it's been about 2 hours now at post-performance, and he finally is able to get to the second level, and then he finally gets up to the third level, and he's about to give up hope when who should he see?
Who, Brian?
Denna.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yep.
I mean, let's be honest, the last interlude chapter really did kind of choreograph
It
Yeah.
did.
that.
And he sees her, she sees him, she lights up when she sees him.
Yeah.
They begin talking. I think it
Right.
talks about how they were like moving towards each other, like they were gonna have this big embrace and
Like, they
reunite,
just
but they
stopped short.
didn't.
Yeah.
So they kind of stop short, and then he wonders if maybe she doesn't remember who he is from the caravan.
Because she doesn't say anything about it, and to be honest though, because she gives him a different name.
Diane, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he doesn't say anything either, so it's like they're both, for some reason or another, not saying anything. But the interesting thing is that she's actually there with Savoy.
Yeah, which his friend.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
And so, like, she invites, or does Savoy invite him to the table? I think Savoy invites
him to the table.
Yep.
And, like, basically it's like an hour of
the two of them,
Kvothe and Diane flirting, and Savoy's just like... So
I think then eventually Kvothe kind of excuses himself and realizes that
he's being a
this
jerk.
Isn't a good thing. So so he steps away, and then we head back to the Waystone Inn in the next chapter for another interlude. And they talk more about, or Kvothe is really still trying to find the words to just describe her, that she's so, to him, she's so indescribably beautiful that he's just at a loss for words, and he's coming up with all these different metaphors and similes and ways to describe her beauty, but struggling.
So, and this kind of goes back to what Brian implied earlier, that I have some qualms about, and it doesn't seem to be just Patrick Rothfuss. It seems to be a majority of authors. Maybe it's male authors. I don't know.
Nerd authors.
Yeah, but it's like
it
when they start to write about love and romance and things like that, it just feels like almost awkward with a side of corny.
It's better than Lucas, than George Lucas's.
Do you know who else it's better than? Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson.
Oh. So on a scale of good, bad, better, it's somewhere in the...
It just, there are a couple
Between
moments
bad
there
and
that
good.
I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a little
Yeah.
cringeworthy. But I'm able to overlook it. And I think part of the problem was I'm listening to it in audiobook because I decided to subscribe to Audible. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this thing. Again, narrator's phenomenal. But you can't just like skip over parts like you can in the book.
Yeah.
True.
Or you can in The Phantom Menace. Or...
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So yeah, that was just something that kind of bothered me.
Yeah. So anyway, so you kind of keep struggling in this interlude, and Chronicler's writing stuff down, and eventually Kvothe says, "No, just don't write any of that stuff down." And he grabs the paper and he crosses these lines out, and he says, "Okay, you can start from here." And has him basically start over with this description, and we assume that Kvothe kind of lands on something that he's at least he accepts Chronicler putting into this story of Kvothe's life. But
cool. All right.
But
so then we head back to the story. So what's this? So this is they're continuing. This is kind of picking up after he leaves her and Savoy. He and Will and Sim kind of keep drinking. They eventually stumble their way back to the university. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot that really happens other than just this, a lot of reflection on her and her how beautiful she was and how
there's a
important
lot
she
of
was.
that, and I think we can summarize it by saying
there's a lot of
she's good looking, she's very important, she's hard to get over.
Yeah. And she has this attraction, or men are just naturally attracted to her.
Right.
So
there we go.
But the important thing being that he is relatively hungover at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens the next day is he has to sign up for exam admissions.
Here's the admissions part.
Right. Yeah. Now, so he basically how this works is it's kind of a lottery. You go in, you pull a time out of a, for lack of a better word, a hat.
Yep.
And then you could have today, you could have 5 days from now, and there's this basically lottery system where like if you have a desirable time slot, you can sell that for money.
Yep. And he happens to pick, I think,
5
days from now. So
yeah.
a pretty good slot that he picked. But he can't access the archives. He really has no way to study. So he says,
he's like,
well,
all right, extra money.
I could sell this and take my admissions test today and sell this to somebody else for some coin. And so he decides to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I always forget about, but the admissions process is the more questions or the better you do in the admissions, the better your rate is for tuition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
it's an awesome way of doing
Yeah, absolutely.
that
Kinda get
sort of...
accepted
there's
and
some
build on
incentive
your
there.
merit,
There
you
is.
know, and
Yeah.
so you kind of earn your
But
admissions. And
anyway,
earn your stripes, yeah.
Ambrose sees his hand up that he's got a desirable
Yeah, and
ticket.
it's I pictured this as kind of a mob scene where there's just lots of stuff going on, and Ambrose is following
An
the
arm.
arm that's holding up this time slot, but he doesn't necessarily see who the arm is connected to, so he just
Mhm.
kind of follows it, and eventually their eyes lock, and it's Ambrose and Kvothe at odds again.
Yeah, and he lowballs him, and Kvothe like goes up to like 3 talons,
Yeah.
and basically Kvothe acquiesces, and he's like, he seems to be like almost like demure and like subservient, but then he's
Yeah.
like, wait, isn't it in this culture? Isn't it like shameful for a noble-born to basically barter?
Just totally
Crafty.
calls him out on it.
Basically, like, just strings him out, and just like, finally Ambrose just storms off.
Yeah.
So
But he's more problems with Ambrose.
yes, and that's I think going
Yep.
to be a theme.
But eventually he does sell it to somebody else. He goes, takes his admissions, and his tuition for the next term is set at 6 talents.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
next he goes back to Emre to collect his loot.
Loot.
He left all this stuff, important stuff, back at the Aeolian from the night before. So he goes
Mhm.
there and kind of
Hangs out
Connects
with
with-
Count 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Mm-hmm. They drink a lot.
quite a bit.
Yeah. They decided to do some songwriting,
Mhm.
which is fun.
They compose a song about their good friend Ambrose.
Yep. Well, actually, I think that before that, though, doesn't he go to visit Devi and kind of sets up his
Oh, yeah, he does.
his
Yeah.
account or his
And he just pays the interest.
he pays the interest, but so he's
Because he needs some money to actually spend for the next term.
Yep.
If he pays off everything, he's going to be pretty broke.
so he does do
Mhm.
that, and then he goes back to the Aeolian,
Mhm.
and he's hanging out with Count Threep, and they begin to craft a song.
Yeah. And it's called Jackass.
Jackass.
I wonder who
because
this could be about.
Ambrose's last name is
Jackies or Jakis
or something.
Yeah.
Jackies.
It must sound
Yeah.
similar enough to Jackass that
But they perform
This
it
works.
once. It just spreads like wildfire.
it's like the viral hit of the summer
yeah.
or something,
Mhm.
or the term or
Yeah.
whatever.
And it.
But they said they never mentioned Ambrose by name.
Right.
It's about a donkey, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. But it does land him back on the horns.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because
Well, Ambrose
Ambrose files
calls him
complaint.
out for
There's, like,
I can't remember.
conduct unbecoming.
That's right. An
That's
Arcanum,
right,
member of the Arcanum,
member
or
of the
something,
Arcanum.
something
Yeah.
like that.
And
So it brings all of the masters out, and you drew up a good analogy. I think I can't remember who it was, but the table is more or less like a U shaped because it looks like horns
Like a crescent, I think.
yeah.
when you're standing at the points.
Yep.
But we got to see all of our old favorite people. Like we saw Ambrose there, we saw Hemi there.
We saw Eloden. We saw Kilvin. We saw Lauren.
Yeah, all of them are there.
That's-
And so basically, does
Basically-
Ambrose have to air his grievance?
I think
Mhm.
Ambrose, basically makes his case.
Mhm.
The masters hear it, and then Kvothe kind of defends himself.
Yeah,
And again, Hemi's on Ambrose's side. I forget who Hemi's little
but
wacky guy
yeah.
or buddy guy in the masters is on his side. But then a number of their masters are like, well, they don't call you out by name, and it's
Right.
not really. This isn't
Yeah.
that big a deal. So
Mhm.
Yep.
they slap Kvothe with a public apology,
Right.
wasn't it?
Pretty slap
Right.
on the wrist, sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. But as Ambrose
Mhm.
is leaving, I forget which master is kind of humming and whistling, and as Ambrose
Hello.
leaves, he breaks
Yeah.
into the song and is
Hello.
singing "Jackass, Jackass" as Ambrose leaves the room.
So after he got his pipes, he was basically able to go into this inn and offer his
Okay.
services, and he was
Yeah.
Kvothe was basically given this huge suite to stay.
Yeah.
And he came back one day and the inn had changed hands and he was forced out.
Yep, after this public apology deal and being brought on the horns. And
Well, I wonder who spawned this problem.
Right. But that's, I think that's...
yeah, so they basically, he was blackballed, and didn't he travel all around the city and finally found one inn that
didn't care about some snot-nosed noble son and wanted to
They
basically
gave him-
stick it to
so-
him. He's like, if you can actually play, that's even better.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to take you in
Yeah.
just because this guy doesn't want me to.
Yep. So we did find a small room
Yeah.
and a place to play, and
he said the suite that he had was huge and nice, but this small room ended up feeling like home to him. So, all right.
We'll get into more of that.
We will in the next episode.
next time. So
All right. Thank you for joining us. You can catch us every Wednesday. We release new content. Sometimes we will release a beer episode that is an off day, but we appreciate you watching. We appreciate